Hello, my name is Kelsey Hallbeck. I'm the curatorial assistant at the Dalí Museum and this week's host of the Dalí at Home video series. Today I'm going to be giving an overview of one of our two current online exhibitions, all about Dalí's illustrated magazine covers and advertisements. I'm going to be just highlighting a few things, not going through the entire exhibition with you today. Before we dive in, I do want to point out that in a way, Dalí's illustrative career preceded his fine art career. A few examples of that are the cartoons he would illustrate for his sister Anna Maria when they were children, and then with his written work. If you didn't know he was a writer, now you do. With these writings, he would also create accompanying illustrations, but he was predominantly seen as a writer, not an illustrator. It wasn't until he illustrated the cover of Minotaur that his illustrative work took precedence over his writings. So Minotaur was a surrealist journal. This was done in 1936, and a lot of the other surrealist artists illustrated the cover as well, one of them being André Masson. And this is just a good example of Dalí's illustrative work taking center stage. Now, his work with magazines really took off in the late 1930s. In 1934, he started traveling to the United States for exhibition purposes, and there he met a man named William Randolph Hearst. Hearst owned a publication called the American Weekly, and by the end of that year, he and Dalí had a signed contract where he would illustrate pages for the following year, 1935, for the publication, which he executed. But by 1937-38, he advanced to illustrating the covers for this publication. Now, this may not seem like a big deal, but the American Weekly had an estimated print run of 60 million. So in terms of publicity, Dalí could not have done better. In 1940, he moved to the United States permanently and lived there until 1948 due to World War II. And during this time, he was in particularly high demand in fashion. Now, in comparison to the previous works we've seen in this presentation, we're going to start seeing a lot more of his Dalínian symbols show up, and that was in part due to the symbols being established in the 1930s, part of the Surrealist period, but also due to him being a shameless self-promoter. He wanted you to look at a cover and know that he illustrated it. So we're going to see some examples from Vogue and Town & Country. These are just a selection, not all. But in the first cover for Vogue 1939, we can see a woman with a flower head. That was a very prominent symbol established in the 30s, like with the others, and can actually be seen in one of the paintings in our own collection. Three young surrealist women holding in their arms the skins of an orchestra, very long title. We can also see a girl skipping rope in the midground, another symbol. Vogue 1944. There's more to look at, more symbols to look at as well. We can see rocks, background landscape, ants, birds, plants, trees. These are all symbols he used repetitiously, not just with the covers, but with his own paintings as well. So two more examples of his magazine cover work are Town & Country. So the one on the left, we can see, of course, the rocks, but we also have water and clouds, two more symbols. And what's interesting about this cover in particular is it mirrors a work in our own collection called The Ship, which I believe is from the early 1940s, so it dates before this. So he also just kind of reused works sometimes, not all the time. And then Town & Country 1948 on the right, we of course see more rocks, more water, but this time a horse, another symbol of his. So interestingly enough, he's designing these covers, but he's also designing advertisements. And the series I'm going to touch on are the 15 advertisements he did for a company called Bryans Hosiery. Bryans Hosiery hired him because at this point he established his name very well. So they commissioned him for that reason, and also because they wanted him to create a shocking campaign. And these advertisements were run in the same magazines he was illustrating covers for. So you got him on the cover and you got him in the magazine. On the advertisement on the left from 1945, we still see more symbols. And these symbols not only were on covers, but they were in the advertisements as well. So they definitely had a continuous flow to them. So the one on the left, we can see rocks, ants, a skull, possibly in the foreground. and then a key in the right foreground, a background landscape as well. And then the one on the right follows more of what the other 13 look like, because with these ads, he did predominantly use butterflies and background landscapes throughout all of them for the most part. So the ad from 1947 is more representative of what they look like as a whole. Now, the final highlight I would like to touch on from our online exhibition is his use of his Paranoia critical method with magazine covers. So, everything we've seen he designed himself, but he eventually grew bored of that and would take pre-existing magazine covers and alter them a little bit. So the magazine cover on the left is the original Antiques magazine cover, and then the Antiques magazine cover on the right, hopefully you can see it, features a face, which he added in himself, creating that double image that you can often see in his works. So those are the end of our highlights for today. I hope you learned something new. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I hope you come in and check in next week to see what we have for y'all. Bye.